Welcome to the BEBC meeting of on the agenda here of Tuesday, October 28th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the lands of the Hopi-speaking people, specifically the Kwamutsan Village. Board of Education is honored to be able to collaboratively walk beside Cowichan, Malahat, Sabasset, Halalt, and Indigenous peoples who cared for this land for thousands of years. May we walk gently on the unceded territories of their lands as we work together to lift up all the Hahas Manama. Motion to adopt the agenda. Trustee Souza, Trustee Schmidt, favor. Motion carried. Minutes of the September 28th or 23rd BEBC meeting. Board of Education Business Committee adopt the minutes of the September 23rd, 2025 BEBC meeting. Trustee Thorne, Trustee Souza, all in favor, motion carried. All right, delegations. Here we have Tanzer Elementary, Mr. Brent Ranger. Welcome.
Thank you. I was fortunate today. First of all, thank you, Haichka, for inviting Tanzer. I brought our most important people, our students. So I'm just going to click through the first slide.
It's technology.
It worked 5 minutes. Oh, there we go. Okay, a little light. So, like most schools, we've got three main goals: literacy, numeracy, social health and wellness, and Indigenous ways of learning. But before I move on to those things, I thought it's really important that all of you, trustees, superintendent, all the people at the table, hear from our students and their perspectives on what they liked. So I asked our two students, Palmer Stacy, she's grade 6, and Daniel Weiss, she's in grade 7, to give all of you guys a sort of an overview, a flavor of what students in grade 6 and 7 like about Tanzer, what's special about Tanzer. So I'll turn it over to these two young ladies, and they can tell you a little bit about what they enjoy about our school, and then we'll carry on with the slide deck.
Okay.
Cool.
Tanzer is such a fun and amazing school. Here's some reasons why. First, everyone loves the forest. The forest is so lush and green, and we're allowed to build forts in it. Second, we love our playground and sports courts. For example, kids enjoy playing basketball on the blacktop, and children love goofing around on the monkey bars.
Third, we have the best music teacher ever. Her name is Miss Taylor. She's so kind and funny.
Fourth, all the teachers love to joke around. For example, Mr. Ralphs is hilarious and interprets it into his teaching.
Fifth, we like that our school is accepting and open to everyone.
Sixth, we have many sports teams. For example, we love doing volleyball with Miss Bedell.
Lastly, we like that we don't have uniforms because we can express ourselves through our fashion.
Thanks for listening. Bye, Palmer.
And Danielle.
And just so you know, none of that was coached or anything. I think it's more important that they bring their thoughts and opinions to you guys. And I read it 10 minutes before we came in and was thinking, oh my gosh, I hope it's good. And it always is. It always is. So, but it's more important that it's authentic for us. So like I mentioned, we've got 3 goals that we really are hammering on. This is my 3rd year at Tanzer. And last year, our first goal with numeracy and literacy, we were looking at the 5 core sorry, click ahead here. Get out of that. Oh, I want to talk about culture. I'll come back to that in just a quick minute. And when we were getting together to look at our literacy and numeracy, we wanted to make sure that all the teachers were teaching the 5 core competencies of reading by grade level. So last year, we had every one of our teachers list strategies to make sure that we're teaching our kids what they need to know to learn how to read. This year, we followed up with not just that, but we're looking at school-wide approaches per grade level. So we have all of our teachers working together in the primary and intermediate levels to make sure that those kids that are in the red zone and yellow zone are not just getting taught curriculum, but making sure that we move the dial. So I think we're now in year 3 of this, and we're really moving forward in terms of our literacy data, we hope. So it was really nice at our last PLC meeting, we were able to take a look at our literacy data, and our teachers sat down by grade level, and we've got cohort groups now that are working to make sure that we are moving that screener data from red, yellow to more green. So we're really excited about that. I really wanted to emphasize that we've had a change from last year to this year, really digging into, like it's data-driven dialogues, what's happening now, and I'm really excited about that. But I want to jump back to what our students were talking about earlier as the school culture, and just listening to our kids, you can hear that they really like to come to Tanzer, and it really shows in terms of coming to a school like Tanzer. One of the things that I noticed when I first got there is it's in town, but it's got that out of town country feel. And that's really special. And I've never had that in a school that I've worked at before. I've been out of schools and out of town schools and in town schools, and they have their own sort of subculture. But the subculture, I can say, you come to Tanzer, it's got that country feel in town, and I just absolutely love it. And listening to our kids today, you get a sense of that. So embedding our culture, school culture of care is really quite important to kids at Tanzer. If you get a chance, trustees, come to any one of our assemblies. We've got an assembly first Monday of the month, and first thing in the morning, pop in and you'll get a real sense of what our school is like. Some of the events and activities we really emphasize at school about culture is our leadership program, our older students helping our younger students organize activities throughout the year. We've got a host league system where we've got house points where people compete from kindergarten all the way to grade 7. It's all in fun. There's a lot of team building and camaraderie. Friendly competition. We've got spirit days. There's a picture of last year's our 80s dance. We had a Halloween dance last week. It was a blast. And so there's a lot of important things to make sure that kids feel safe at school, because that's our second goal, is having kids feel socially and emotionally ready and willing and wanting to come to our school. So we also like to involve the community, and as you can see in that slide deck there, we've got a family of dinosaurs on the left. That was our Halloween dance the other night. And then our fire department comes every year, and they come to all the primary classes, and they climb around with the fire trucks, and it's nice to have community members come into our school, and they feel very welcome at Tanzer. I talked a little bit about literacy, how it's morphed over the last couple of years, and I'm really excited that in years past, intermediate teachers working on silos and were independent because they've got the older students. Now I've got teams of intermediate students, or intermediate teachers and primary teachers all working together to make sure that not just the kids that will get through the school system without necessarily extra supports, we're looking at every single kid in the school to make sure that everybody, by the time they leave grade 7, are successful at our school. So it's exciting to see that whole effort in that way. Just a picture of one of our assemblies, and the point of that slide deck is like everybody is on the same page. Our PLCs we meet 5 times a year, and our PLC group is working together to make sure that all of our kids are learning to read and reading to learn, going from primary to intermediate, and looking at targeted interventions and all kinds of different ways to support our students. So that's really exciting for us. I mentioned earlier last year we were looking at those 5 core components, and we've got teaching strategies to make sure kids are getting all of that at all of the grade levels. And when we're not successful with some of our students, we're now looking at how do we support those students that are just not naturally picking up the curriculum and knowledge that they should be. What are we doing for those kids that are falling between the cracks? And it's very important for us to make sure that gets supported. Indigenous ways of learning. For me, like if you're walking into a building and you're not seeing it on the walls, it's not happening in the building. So we hopefully get another grant this year. We've got some artwork that's going to brighten up our schools. When we first walk into the building, we're getting some of the big murals. We've got 8x4 murals. We're going to get painted by, what's her name? The lady that's, oh, you don't. I can't remember the lady's name, but I'll get back to it. It's a local Indigenous artist that's going to be painting some murals in the front entrance of our building. On the inside, and it's going to be really exciting to see that work done. So I'm excited about that. I'll have to look at her name in a minute. In the meantime, I've got lots of student artwork, and this was like Orange Shirt Day last year. Some of the things that we want to make sure that, I think we've got about 50 students in our school that are Indigenous, and of 300, it's not a high percentage, but we want all of our kids to make sure that they've got an understanding of the culture in which we live. And so some of the things that are happening just on a day-to-day basis, we have like Indigenous Word of the Day, we've got language lessons in various classes, AT lessons, and then we try to get a lot of activities throughout the year, whether we had spearfishing last year, drumming, dancing, bannock, cedar weaving, guest speakers, the murals. And so we just want to make sure that when you're going through Tanzer, it's a school that is really taking on and supporting the culture of the area. So I think that's exciting that all of our kids are being part of that. So it's pretty exciting. Next steps, we've got a way to go. I particularly think the Indigenous ways of knowing I think a lot of schools, you know, I think it's important that we continue to develop this. And I think we're making some good headway, but we've got a way to go in terms of our 3 goals. But, you know, together with the kids, they're like sponges and they are really supportive of everything we do. So it's really nice to bring new concepts to the school and the kids pick it up and they love it. So pretty excited about that. Next steps, we need to continue to use our assessment data to drive instructional practices. We need to continue to ensure we work together as a school community for the school community. So I think that, you know, these school plans are always evolving. And I think that if you get a chance to come to Hanser, make sure that you do, because you'll find that the kids are bright, shining lights, and I'm pretty proud to work there. It's a great school. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Is there anything that you guys can think of that these important folks need to know about Tanzer? No?
I don't think so.
Oh, good. Okay, I'll turn it over to you. I don't know if you have any questions.
Questions,
trustees?
trustees?
I prepared these young ladies and said you might get some questions from our trustees.
Just a comment. I'm really impressed. You kids did great. But what really stands out in my mind is seeing how you involved the children with special needs by children. And that's something I hope a lot of schools pick up on, because we need to better understand their daily issues that they have to deal with. And it's great. I really, really enjoyed it. And Indigenous learning, don't ever be scared to ask me to come, because I work for the district and you guys got to put me to use somewhere.
Oh,
But
well, I opened up a can of worms. I didn't know that you're that accessible. That's awesome. Thank you.
I really want to thank you kids, because you spoke well, a little too fast for an old guy like me, but I was really impressed. And keep on, keep on.
You, Trustee Schmidt?
Thank you. I've been at Tanzer for a very long time. 1994 is when I first arrived there, and over the years, watching the school grow, both in building and in enrollment, and now having the next generation of my family there is super special for me. But what I've noticed the most about your school is the feeling when you walk in the door. Kids are always happy. Rarely do we see the lineup outside the office, because sadly I'm there a lot. But you don't see that anymore. You don't see heads hung low anymore. There's a lot of things that you don't see anymore, and you're right, the forest is awesome. It's a little smaller than when I first got there, but the forest is awesome. And a fun fact is, back in the early 2000s, we actually had some elders from Cowichan tribes come in, and they took out all the invasive plants. And were you there, Shelley, when that happened? And they put traditional plants in the forest. So what's in the forest is actually what's supposed to be in the forest. So I don't know if they've come again to maybe do another check and stuff, but the elders did this whole entire project with the kids. It was phenomenal. You know, we've done some pretty cool stuff up there, but the forest was built to be an Indigenous, you know, proper planting, and it's phenomenal. So, but I just want to say thank you for making it a place that's safe, and that all kids are succeeding at Tanzer. As we see on a daily basis. So I just want to appreciate it. Now, as far as you kiddos are concerned, well done. Thanks for telling us all the cool stuff that happens at the school. So I guess my question to you is there anything missing that you want or need at Tanzer Elementary?
Yeah.
Do you tell?
Like soccer nets in the field. Like we don't have any of those. It's really fun to play soccer.
Anything else? Do you have everything you need in your classrooms to make it fun?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Does Ms. Taylor need anything?
Any musical instruments?
Oh, okay.
A lot of musical instruments.
Well, thank you. It takes a lot to stand up in front of a bunch of adults that you don't know and talk to us, and I appreciate you guys coming, so thanks for being brave.
Thanks for having us.
I don't really have a, how much do you guys use your forest? All-
Every day.
Every day.
Like a minute about every day.
I've been to three elementary schools that have forests, and they were the best ones. Because you can play around the trees all day long. Do they let you climb the trees?
No.
We let them build forts, but we don't let them climb just because I end up having to do first aid.
What's interesting is over the 20 years, the forest has matured, so it's a changing forest.
Yeah.
The trees are older and bigger, and they've kind of, there's more shade now, and the ground cover has changed a bit, so fewer new trees are growing. So having watched it mature over the years, it's quite interesting, and when we walk through it, it's different. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. We really enjoyed that.
Now you know what a board meeting
I can't believe you made it here that quickly. That's impressive. Bye, kiddos.
Right. Okay, up next, Seabold. Vanessa,
Hello,
welcome.
everyone. Yeah. Nice to see you all this afternoon. I'm Vanessa MacDougall. My name is Vanessa MacDougall, for those of you that don't know me. Born and raised in the Cowichan Valley. Been doing this work leading schools for I think 13 or 14 years. My second year at Cowichan Valley Open Learning Co-op, and under my leadership is also the Grove, the online school. This presentation this afternoon will focus just on our alternate school. And I'd like to introduce my student guest here. This is Sadie Ross. Sadie is a grade 12 student at Seavolk on Nagle Street, and she is on track to graduate with her full dogwood this year. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Sadie Ross. Thank you for letting me speak to you on behalf of my fellow students. I have been attending Seavolk for 3 years. I am a member of Subosset First Nation in Cowichan. I have lived here in Cowichan Valley my whole life. My first school was Paulson Lake Cowichan, from kindergarten to grade 2. And then I moved to Duncan and attended to Cohuman from grade 3 until the grade 8. When I went to Quamachan, the COVID pandemic hit, and the schooling and my mental health has really started to suffer. Being quarantined was really affected the way how I feel about myself. And I had really bad social anxiety. I was spiraling with my mental health at Quamachan, and in the 10th grade I started at Old Cowichan Secondary, and I was skipping a lot of classes. I never connected with any of my teachers. My mother told me that I would benefit from attending alternative school. As a family, we decided to try Seavolk, and Seavolk offered some flexibility and self-directed program that really appealed to me. I was really busy with family and cultural events following COVID. And a regular school meant I was falling behind on my courses, which added stress. My first year at Seavolk, it was a brand new experience. All of a sudden, it felt like I was a part of a new family. The students were kind and welcoming, and I felt appreciated. The teacher, Justin, has always had new activities and fun projects for us to work on. Unfortunately, at the end of the school year, Justin had transferred to open learning at Cal High, and I had to start over with a new teacher. And during that time, I was working full hours at triple O's, and I was doing very well there, and I made school a lower priority. I stayed in touch with my new teacher and connected with Cindy, my counselor at school, and was able to complete some courses on my days off. The toll of working full-time in the service industry and the rude, angry customers has made me realize I wanted to recommit to graduating. Since September, I haven't missed a day of school. The teachers and staff are really supportive at Seavolk and always there to help. My teacher Neil makes the most amazing food every Wednesday and feeds the entire school a healthy and nutritious meal. The food program at Seavolk is a huge part of why kids want to be there. We also have an amazing wood shop there, where we can create projects and learn new skills that I'm currently taking my forklift training with our awesome instructor, Jared. In addition to these things, I have been working out in the school gym for 5 days a week, and I feel better about myself than I have in forever. Even my teacher, Nate, tells me it's okay to skip leg day time to time. I guess what I'm really trying to say here, that at Seavolk, I feel heard and valued by the adults and other fellow students. Everyone at Seavolk has their own story and how they ended up there, and the staff acknowledges that and treats everyone as an individual. I'm not sure I would ever graduate at a regular school like Seavolk. Seavolk has made me confident about graduating and love going to school. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you heard a little bit from Sadie that sort of connects with our theme and our logo for Seavolk. So Kevin did a lot of work before me on developing a school logo and trying to find the right words that sort of encompass Seavolk. And so they chose the whale because it represents family, connection, compassion, and strength. And after just spending 1 year and a couple months there and participating last year in my first grad ceremony, you can't, you just feel it. When you walk into Seavolk, it feels like a home, and it truly is a family because all the adults take care of the kids' human needs first, that hierarchy of needs. So those bottom rungs, we're able to do that. We're a very small school, so we're able to take care of those things in a really great way. And it's wonderful to hear that it's making a difference and our students can name it and notice it. So I'm just going to talk about 3 things. 1, a quick overview of the school. 2, a little bit more about our learners. And 3, some of the goals and the work we're going to focus on this year. So for those of you that don't know, Seavolk encompasses the old Duncan L building up at Nagle Street. And then we have satellite programs in all of our secondary schools. And we also just opened the House of Friendship satellite program as well. And we have CBAS, that's our 8 and 9 program. And to be an alternate, it's a different way of coming to an alternate school. So you have to have a referral. And if you are accepted into an alternate program, we start with an intake process. And that intake is with me and with our school counselor. And so that just slows everything down. We really get the opportunity to get to know each child and each family right from the beginning. And so we can organize wraparound supports to transition them into the school with purpose and thoughtfulness for success. Alternate programs to get the funding and keep the funding have to have additional supports. And then the last piece, which I'm seeing our staff do a really great job and really starting to amplify the opportunities for transitioning out into post-secondary or into work in partnership with Careers last year. So really grateful to be working with Ryan around some of those pieces. The forklift training was one of them. Quite a few of our students are keen to get out there with Jared and and drive that forklift around, and hopefully avoid our benches and stuff. There was a few little bumps into furniture outside last year. So like hopefully you heard through Sadie's voice, the approach at CVOC innately honors some of these principles of learning. In particular, what stands out to me based on that intake process and the student learning plan that's created with each of the learners, with the teacher and the family, is that it recognizes learning at your own time and recognizing patience around learning. And the other one is that learning involves continuing an identity. So that is something that really stood out as obvious and different at CVOC from all the other schools I've worked in. Each class sort of has its flavor and everybody feels connected and safe, and all identities are really welcomed there. So this year we currently have 319 students at CVOC. 45% of those learners are Indigenous. 31% of them have diverse or disabilities. And we have 5%, about 16 students who are youth and care, and a few of them overlap all of those areas. So our learners are resilient. They come to us not usually being successful, or I'm noticing in my 2 Septembers that I've spent there, been out of school for several years, all leading back to the pandemic, and developed severe anxiety and not able to get out of their homes. So shows lots of courage to get back into school, and then we set a pace for each individual learner and connect them right away with multiple adults. So really doing a good job of that power of 4. I think most students can have. Sadie mentioned at least 3 important people, Neil, Justin, Nate, and Jared in particular at the school that she's connected with. Yeah, and we really focus on that fortune cookie there. Growth happens where comfort ends and challenge begins. So we're constantly in many different creative ways trying to find that sweet spot where they're not going to give up, but they can pursue moving forward at that just right level. So Milica sends her apologies. She was going to join us today, but she's sick. She's very fond of you, Kathy. She had fun with you the other day at the DSAC. So grateful that Sadie joined. Yeah, so part of, I think, why we're having some success at CVOC is these protective factors. We're really intentional with our communication to home, to students, to school-based team. There's many systems in place to hopefully connect and support with students. Like every Wednesday morning, this was something really cool that I thought was a great system, and if I was ever at another school, I would implement it. It's every Wednesday morning we meet our school-based team. We divide and we meet with each pod of teachers, and we go over every single student. And so school-based team meets every Wednesday after school to review that list and implement those actions the next day. So it's a nice cycle to try to catch people before they get too stuck. So yes, belonging, strong sense of belonging. We have lots of clubs. There's lots of opportunities to participate in a variety of different ways, and many caring, supportive relationships. And if you don't already have the sense, we do have a strong community at CVOC. From the clerical, like we have Denise and Lori, and they're so invested. Denise, they both do so many extras to care for our students. From spirit weeks to Indigenous cultural events to our newsletter and barbecues and things like that. Where we started last year, our monthly challenges, always trying to think of creative ways to draw people into the school. To improve attendance, and the challenges led by their teachers, because our teachers at CVOC like to compete, and so we have pod challenges, right? Yeah, especially your 2 teachers. We also have our student of the month, and we honor a student in each pod monthly. in our assembly. And it's something that's appreciated by students. They do a big drum roll and they get a CBOL t-shirt and their certificate. And there's many cultural aspects to CBOL that, I learned last year going through each month. And so as we got closer to grad, there's a lot of this happening.
All right, next Johnny, official graduate 2025.
Plug their ears. Let's go there.
So when you complete a course, you get to put your name into a jar, and we're always doing draws for Timmy cards and other types of incentives for course completion. When you also complete a course, you get to ring the bell once. In grade 10, in grade 11, twice. When you graduate, or in grade 12, you get to ring it 3 times when you complete a course, and when you've graduated, you get to just really bang that bell. And so that is something I think has been happening there for quite a while. It's fun. Oops. Yeah, so I think we're doing a much better job, like I said, partnering with careers and offering skill development. But we're not just focused on like careers and transition skill development. We have a lot of certificates now, like the forklift training, barista, first aid, WMIS, many things. We really focus on employability. The teachers do a great job of trying to encourage every student to find a job and get those WEX courses for their graduation program. But in addition to that, our goals are focused this year specifically on mental health and around literacy. And so we know if we build some skills around mental health and develop an understanding of our stress response, we can maybe take some control and feel like our anxiety isn't controlling us, and we have some coping strategies. So we are wrapping around this year as a whole staff, learning a little bit about Open Parachute. So we're grateful that the district has purchased that for us, and it's making it easier for teachers to be able to deliver some mental health every single day. And so all the teachers are committed to starting with the survey with students, doing that first lesson, and then we're going to reconvene and see how that went, share our stories, and try to encourage each other to dive into all of the sort of tier 1 lessons that this program offers. And then separate from that, I'm working with our counselor Cindy and some of our support workers. There's also lessons that the counselor can deliver on that tier 3 level where we need that clinical counselor. So that is what we've just started to organize, and we're looking forward to implementing that across the whole school this year and see what difference that makes. I think for years they've had community into the school, like Couch and Women Against Violence, or CYSA, if I have it right, Couch and Violence. Yeah, they'll come in and do workshops, but agencies don't really have the manpower anymore to do that, and this is our work, it's in the curriculum, so we're developing our capacity as a staff and really explicitly skill development with our students around mental health and wellness. And again on literacy. So in secondary schools, I believe, I've observed over the last many years, this narrow focus on course completion versus on learning. And so we complete courses to tick the box and then head off into our next step beyond high school. But really the work needs to, as you enter the grad program, if you're not literate at a certain level, or your numeracy skills are not at a certain level to be successful in those grade 10 courses, the kids are showing us they're wandering holes, they're just slipping through the cracks. So I know there's been a lot of work at the elementary level on explicit literacy skill development, and we're really excited about that coming into secondary schools this year. And so our school-based team, working with district staff, Amy and Lisa, and so we've done all the screeners for most of our students that we're worried about, and now we're going to implement some programming. in small groups, and hopefully get the high school teachers on board to try some morphology lessons and build vocabulary for our students. To not just graduate with sort of the bare minimum, but hopefully graduate with more dignity, purpose, and options, and that your 90% on English 12 actually means you're literate at that level. And so that's something that'll take a couple of years, but we're excited to get started on it this year. And I'll just leave you with more of what, Sadie had to say. I mean, Tim came to our school last year and spent a good chunk of time with one of our students, and I was really grateful for him to listen and collected a bunch of student sort of reflections. And then I think Tim with Jeff shared them with Clerical and put them in AI, and then gave it back to me as a gift. And so this has been wonderful to share with teachers this year, because it honors the work that they've been doing and it reflects how Sadie feels as well. So our students continue to tell us that it's, a second chance. It's the first school where I felt like I mattered. Here I'm not just a student, I'm a student. So, yeah. Are there any questions? Joe?
Disprahaitsep ka na sheshev na setulwato na skwalawan. Timo ay na kwam. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your knowledge and how strong you are. And I'm really proud because I'm hoping one day to see my daughter sitting there because she's in SIVO. And much like you, she was affected with the COVID. She had some wellness issues and it's being dealt with. And remember, because of what you learned, you now become a role model for other children, especially in our community. You know the value of FESO. You know the value of SAG. You have to relay that because that's one of the hardest issues for our people to deal with, is to understand why they need to take these little 1 or 2 day exams to find out where they're at. You're very important, and I'm very proud of what you guys do. I think growing up, had I gone to SIVO, I'd have been a lot smarter than I am. Thank you.
Trustee Croft.
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations on your journey, and you clearly have really aced it. And I, again, definitely what Joe said, I'm so grateful that you shared that story. It really resonated, and it's super meaningful. And I feel quite humbled that you chose to share it with us today. So thank you for that. May I follow up the question for Vanessa? So it's been a while, and I don't know if this thought is still active out in the world, but for a while they were hearing that the kids who are at CVAC should really be thinking about heading back, to Kelsey and Kowatson and that kind of thing. Is that still on the radar at all?
That one slide I had about that last part of our programming is around transition. And so for alternate, you need a transition plan. So whether that's transitioning to life and work or post-secondary, or exiting back to one of their home schools. I know last year, so that isn't like a intense focus for me as a leader. It's about doing what's right for every child. And so we did have quite a few students at the end of last year who wanted to transfer back to Cowichan Secondary. And so we were able to transition them into the open learning there as a soft entry, because they really wanted to take advantage of all the electives. So yes.
Thank you, that really clarifies things. Thank you.
Trustee Lezak.
2 things. Are you feeling ready to head out in the world now? A little bit? Awesome, and you must be really proud. And then my last question is, are you excited to ring that bell?
I'm very excited.
Yeah, so good job. Keep working hard. It's wonderful to hear your story.
Trustee Schmidt.
I'm curious about what you're going to do with your fork forklift operating degree? Is that like a career path that you're looking at?
Honestly, if things like, if I don't really like going back to like where I used to work, because I was planning on going there after graduation. I might look into construction for a career. I think it's pretty interesting to do construction.
Well done. And thank you for taking us and sharing, being brave enough to share your story, because I know it's an uncomfortable thing to do when you talk about your truths and who you are and where you've come from. So thank you for that. And thank you. Your heart was definitely on your sleeve today, and I know that that's how you are every day. But just thank you. Thank you for supporting our youth and giving them hope and a path forward that, maybe, I mean, COVID, it's not the first time I've heard this about what happened. And we had wondered when we came in as a board, what kind of damage do kids get from COVID? And there was never really a follow-up report done as to what happened. And I think now what we're learning, especially from you, is that's, there's some serious challenges with kids not being able to leave once it came. And so thank you again for that piece of your story too, because we have been always curious about what kind of damage did COVID do to our students here in the district. So thank you for that. But just thank you for giving them the pathway that maybe they couldn't see because of barrier. So you're appreciated.
Trustee Thorne?
Yeah, just a reminder, I understand the construction portion, and I really appreciate that because that's what I do for a living is recruit. I have talked to some of the kids with Seabolt about moving on into construction. But a reminder that every one of them, because there's a 2-year limit on most of their certifications, to keep renewing it because it's really costly. And unless you get a cohort, you can't just go in and take it yourself. So that's especially the forklift. This year I've had a hard time finding people for forklift, for lumber yards. And that's key. The other ones are good. A lot of people don't understand that you can't even go out and buy caulk and put it in your car if you buy 6, that you can actually get a ticket. So it's very, very important. And if you want to get into construction, you come find me, cousin.
Just make a comment about Seabolt. It's, since I've been here, it's always been a place where somebody who has no hope can go find some hope. So thank you very much for that. And I must ask you, what else can we do? What else can we do up there?
I would like more Hulkaminum speakers that are willing to share their language with Seabolt. Because I've noticed with Seabolt that we don't really have much like Hulkaminum speaking going around there. Like I would love to get more classes on Hulkaminum speaking because I used to speak Hulkaminum growing up, and I would love to relearn it again.
I have another question. If you were still at Watson, the big school, where do you think you would be now?
I honestly don't know. I'm not really a big fan of big crowds, so I wasn't like in big schools, and it still attended to Cowichan High.
I was surprised when I got the results for the student learning survey last year. There's a question that asks students to identify their stressors at school. What stress provides you stress or anxiety? And when you open it up, it presents the data in a Wordle. And so the more responses, the bigger the word. The word for all grade levels was people. It was huge. I've never had that at any other school I've worked at. So, okay.
Do you get a follow-up, like with students 3-5 years down the road to see, okay, I've been out of here for 3 or 5 years. What do I really think about my experience there?
because I've only been there a year and a bit, I haven't thought about that, but people come to us. And they come and check in with their teachers, they say hello, and they always share positive reflections about their time there. We do, as you may have already heard, we have lots of families who graduated from there, and then they bring their children back and want them to graduate there as well. So I've only received a lot of positive feedback from former graduates, from going back, 3, 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Is it possible to take that model and put it into the big school, or will it just not work?
I know, I think about that all the time. So if we could slow down September and have the teachers meet with every child like we do at Seafolk, like how would that fit in Cal High if I was back there? What could we do? We talked when I was there years ago about trying to do that with our grade 10s, to allow our teachers to really get to know our grade 10s, slow that down, pause, one-on-one meetings, create action plans to really nurture and support them to be successful there. Because if we know in advance that they're really, really anxious or, haven't been out of the house in 3 years, like every September I meet with at least 12 to 20 people who have the same story. How they've been in their home for many years and they've been out of school since grade 8 or 9, since COVID. So if we know in advance that they're suffering from that, we can plan with intent. I know I'm working with Claire a little bit, as Nicole is, to try to get a better sense of our grade 8s and 9s and what they're going through. Because with my other hat on with the Grove, I have 26 learners in grade 8, 9 at the Grove. They're coming 4 days a week for half days. It's very remarkable, and they all suffer from severe anxiety, but they're having success. They're managing their anxiety in that type of a quiet environment with 2.5 hours of instruction 4 days a week. And we hope that they can build and we can transition them to Cowichan Secondary or wherever their homeschool is by the time they hit grade 10.
It's an amazing place, and we thank you for all the work you do, and we thank you for coming in. This is our favorite time of the month, so thank you very much. This was great. Any other questions, comments?
Just another comment. What you just said, I hope resonates with everyone in this room. For years, as I sat at this table, the question was, how do we help the troubled students? You just answered it. Sit down and have a conversation. A lot of them don't like being in big classrooms because they get lost. They fall behind, so they react. Sometimes it's not a good reaction. They just drop out. They feel unvalued. But when I go to your school, I'm always impressed. Always. I get to talk to some of the kids, and not just the Indigenous, but a lot of kids who tell me their story. And most of them up there have some pretty sad stories. So I'm really proud, and you just hit the nail on the head with talk to the kids. Find out where they are here as well as here.
Okay, it's Africa.
Thank you very much for coming. Take care.
You can't leave until you make some fried bread.
Okay, detailed enrollment report.
I'm up. Thank you very much. In your package, I never can. In your package on page 9 is the school by school enrollment report, looking at the actual FTE, so this is full-time equivalents, which for grades K to 9 and CBOLC is in fact an equivalent head count. When you move to grades 10, 11, 12, then full-time equivalent is number of courses. So what I want to show you here is a comparison from 24-25, what we have projected in 25-26, and what the school's actual enrollments are. This has changed a bit since I presented at the last board meeting due to the reconciliation process. So overall in elementary, change year over year, there is a reduction of 136 FTE, 136 students, and a change from projection of 33. So elementary went down more than projected, and that's going to be the theme as I go through here. In secondary, there were projected 3,016.58 FTE, and in fact came in at 3,030, so up 14.21 from projection, but down 18.54 from the previous year. So that was not actually that far off overall. Other categories, we put CVOC, DL, and open school. Here's where we see a greater drop, 29.44 from the previous year, 28.75 from projection. But when we start to look at the cumulative totals, this is where the numbers get bigger. Overall, we had projected a drop of 136 FTE, and you can see here that it actually ended up at 186.1 FTE. So a change of 50 students, further reduction than anticipated. So over the last 2 years, the district has dropped 335 FTE. So last year was about 149, this year about 186. And when you think of that in the context of numbers, that's the size of an elementary school, just in 2 years. When you look at BC statistics projections, BC stats projections, what you'll see is that the province anticipates a further reduction in ages 5 to 17 until 2035. That's as far out as they go. In the next 10 years, the school-age population in the province of British Columbia is expected to be smaller than it is today, by about 35,000 students, shared among private and public. The opposite trend of that is that overall the population is expected to grow close to 800,000 people in the next 10 years in the province of British Columbia, which is an aging population or an in-migration trend which isn't bringing school-age students, so retirees coming to the province of BC or immigration coming to the province of BC but not offsetting with an increase in the number of kids. So I think the reason I highlight all of this is that budgeting and finances is much more difficult in a period of enrollment decline than it is in a period of enrollment growth. As you're growing, the funding amount, the $9,015 that you receive per student, usually covers more than covers the additional staffing requirements for those kids, and often helps offset inflation. When you flip that, the revenues go down quicker than the reductions on scaling. And so provincially, we know we've talked about how there's only 4 school districts in the next 4 years expected to be bigger than they are today, and they're not including the Cowichan Valley. I think the next decade, if we follow BC stats and our own enrollment projections and look at birth rates, the district will be on an enrollment decline, and that'll be a provincial trend and probably a national trend. Okay, just heads up. This is what we're going to work with. We also included in your report head count. This is an overall school district report. And I wanted to kind of look at where the students are. So this is head count, not FTE. You can see that the 6, 7s are quite a large bubble in the middle there. And they'll be moving into the secondary years shortly. Meaning that secondary should be reasonably stable for a few years. That 12 will always be a larger cohort than every other year. Those are students who may be on the 6-year grad program rather than the 5-year grad program, and they're still in the system for that extra year, and they're often recorded as grade 12s or 11s. But really where the enrollment is going to start to drop off is going to be elementary for some time until those students that number starts to come up again, whenever that might be. We know it's not the next 5 years because those kids have already been born or not been born. But this is the head count trend for your information. What we have right now. But looking at that at an FTE, I mentioned 10, 11, 12, report out a little bit differently. So that big bar in 12 on head count isn't as big on FTE because those are students finishing up final courses. There's a head count of 1 body. They're not full-time. They're in the multi-year or the extra year grad program. So I just wanted you to be aware of that as well. And then if you look at by school year, you can see that 2016-17 down around that 7,500 high number. Right now we're in around 8,200. We're going to be heading back down in I think this is be heading back down population-wise in that direction. So 23-24 being the peak year. One will probably remember for some time, given the trends on enrollment, unless there's mass immigration. Our families are coming back from Alberta. And if you followed the teacher strike in Alberta, you know that there were 750,000 students affected by that. There's 700,000 students in British Columbia. So the percentage of youth in Alberta is significantly higher than British Columbia. We have a very significantly statistically low percentage of youth in the province of British Columbia. So interesting data for us to pay attention to. So that's all I really had on enrollment.
Questions on enrollment? Trustee BEBC.
So in looking at this bar graph here, the 2016, 2017, so we've experienced that in our district. Is there learnings from that now go into our projections moving forward?
You mean a decline or increase?
Yeah, well, but having our school district operating at 7,600 students, for example, now going back into that.
Yeah, so 13-14 was the bottom. And that year was about 7,200, maybe 7,250 students. When I started, which is a long time ago, 2000, this district had 11,000 students. 11,000. So we experienced much more rapid decline. In fact, those declines were in the 300s and sometimes 400 students a year. As birth rates changed and as people migrated out of the Cowichan Valley and maybe into Alberta. Mainly it was just simply birth rate, factor of birth rate, bigger cohorts in the years before. So we lived through that and spent many years in funding protection as part of that process. So we have a lot of learning, and we know the challenges it brings being in declining enrollment. But it's not. I don't think we're going to see that steepness of decline. The data is not suggesting that, but it is going to continue to decline, but not in the realm of 300 students every year, likely. But we have seen 335 in the last 2 years.
I think one of the things that really concerns me with this is we're going to have to really be meticulous, especially around funding. I worry, I'm getting nightmares just sitting here thinking, what are we going to do if we have to close a school? How is that going to affect our community? Are we going to be able to get more money as student representation declines? We have to get together, I think, and start looking at some backup plans for safety. Because the one thing we've always said is we don't want to take anything out of the classroom. And I just want to make that point so that everybody realizes that we're in for a bleak coming year.
Trustee Croft.
Thank you. Do we ever gather any data in terms of how the economy affects our school population? I mean, if every 20-year-old hikes out of here and goes someplace else, that's it for the birth rate, right? But if we have a vital economy with a lot of choice of jobs, then good news.
Yeah, I think that would be anecdotal, that we would think that way. And I'm sure that, if you look at the Cowichan Valley BC stats for the population here, very, very true that once students hit about 20, or our youth population hit about 20, we do see a big dip in population until around the mid-30s. And so that may be attending school somewhere else or programming somewhere else or working somewhere else. It does take time before I think people come back. Like we know that in the Cowichan Valley, there's 600 one-year-olds and 1,600 64-year-olds. And we know that that's the population trend here. And we know that there's a lot more 18, 19-year-olds than there are 20-year-olds in the Cowichan Valley because there is a transition of leaving the community. Yeah, we can see that.
Trustee Schmidt.
In looking at the the graph for school by year, and then looking in the decline, I know that even though it seems a little bit scary, it's not as bad as it looks. I was on that little adventure in the early 2000s, and that was horrible times. It was a $7 million cut year. So I think that we're going to be in relatively good shape due to the fact that our administrative staff as well as our financial staff have done such a good job of keeping us ahead of ourselves, so when this decline comes to a slow, then we can figure out what this really needs to look like. And I think that's the bonus, that we've kept this buffer to protect the impact of what's going to happen. And should the impact slow, then we'll be able to get a better grip on what that's going to look like in years to come. But I think that COVID helped that the Secretary Treasurer and Superintendent today were able to make sure that, we had a nice cushion for us to come back and have easy budgets. It's been a blessing. But I don't, because we're seeing more kids being designated, and that's bringing funding with, which is what bounced us out of funding protection. And I know that our schools might get a little bit smaller, but I don't think they're going to get as small as they once were. So even though it's a little bit scary and there's a pressure, I don't think it's going to be as bad as what we've seen because of the fiscal responsibility of the board and staff.
Mr. Santos.
In reference to the $7 million year, what happened that year, I think that was 2005, 2006. And what happened is there were collective agreements that were negotiated effective, I think, 2004, 2005. And for the first year of those collective agreements, government funded them. In year 2, they didn't fund the wage increases, and they also reversed the funding for the first year. And so the board was left with having to find 2 years of collective agreement commitments with zero funding. So that was the decision of government of that day as a way of managing the provincial fiscal challenges. So we don't know if we'll ever find ourselves in that position, but that was why we had a $7 million year on a $68 million budget. It was huge challenge. This is what we're working with, and I'm going to move to the next item if I can. And so the last time I came to the board, at the board meeting, I had projected with all those enrollment shifts about $570,000 of increased funding. I think it was $568 I brought forward. Now I'm calculating that as an increase of $472,000 based on what I see on the September 30th count. So a change of about 100. However, I know the board spent money out of that $568,000, but there's actually a teaching savings in the operating budget here that offsets this. We're down an additional 30-ish students from what I had originally projected, and so the operating budget's not paying for one component of that staffing. So it's sort of net neutral. Even though we've dropped a little bit further, I don't see it having much of a budget impact, and I want to bring that to your attention.
I'd like to thank our staff and the board for making sure we keep that economic cushion, so when things do start to decline in enrollment, we have a little bit of a cushion, and keeping our mitts off of that surplus is huge, because what goes up is going to come down a little bit. So thank you very much for that, because you will make our jobs and future board's jobs a lot easier.
Thank you. The next item I have is to bring to the board an administrative procedure. So this is belongs to, as you know, belongs to the superintendent's realm, and I'm the lead person on this administrative procedure. So this one was created, I can't really say due to a matter. I'll say due to a matter. We were required to have an administrative procedure that made it really clear around impairment in the workplace. without saying much more, it's a good administrative procedure to have if you find that situation has occurred. So we didn't have it, and so to make matters clearer around expectations for employees, we now have impairment in the workplace administrative procedure that's been added to our manual. So it's here. I think if you read it, it is very common sense around being fit for duty and not to be in possession of substances or under the influence of substances. But it also adds, responses that the board can or managers can have if they suspect an employee is impaired in the workplace. Yeah, so just here for information at this meeting.
Wonders never cease if we have to actually do that.
Well, it also clarifies that there are programs that are available to employees through the board, which also is an important communication. We do from time to time have to assist employees on their journey, their wellness journey, and that there are programs that we have access to.
Yeah, and I'm sure you designed it this way. It also parallels all the WorkSafe BC materials on impairment and being fit for work and all that stuff, so I can see that there's alignment with the legislation and all the way through.
If that's intentional. Thank you. The next item that's here, this was brought to the last board meeting and then referred to advisory, and this is a policy 14 around school closures and or grade reconfiguration. After advisory, there have been no changes to it. There were no recommendations other than there one time was a bracket around the word compassionate under the last bullet that I have up here, and we removed that. I think that was a holding item as to whether that word stayed in or out of the policy, but we left it in the policy at this time and removed the bracket. That would be the only change for the board or for the committee. And so it either needs further action to move forward to the board for a recommendation or to move into another realm of review.
Oh, Trustee Souza.
Thank you. Can I make a friendly amendment / recommendation at this stage? Yeah, okay, so under consultation process and decision implementation, so notification of the decision to these groups, it's a bit out of place sequentially and process-wise, so what I'm suggesting is that you move it out of consultation process, because this is about the notification of the decision, and move it under decision and implementation, second bullet, so that it reads, make a decision that reflects both the educational needs and the voices of the community, and notify the above named groups of the decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Noted.
Any other? Carry on.
So it's an action item without a motion. So we're not sure how the BEBC would like to deal with it. If you believe with the amendment, or does have a motion. If you believe with the amendment that it's ready to go to the board, we would add to the motion as amended.
Trustee Croft.
I'd like to, so moved, and I just wanted to thank Trustee D'Souza for taking it in.
And second from Trustee Schmidt. Okay, all in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Highlights of the October 21st Advisory Committee meeting, Trustee Croft.
Thank you. So at our recent advisory meeting, which was last Tuesday, we welcomed all our educational, almost all our educational partners, not quite everybody was there, but we were glad to receive some new faces from the Parent Advisory Council and the Student Advisory Council who are in attendance. The partners shared their many activities and undertakings in the schools to forward truth and reconciliation, and the conversation tended to revolve around incorporating First Nations visual art into the schools. You may recall that we had asked our partners for thoughts on enhancements to the advisory committee's structure, This gave us an opportunity to dig into why the committee was originally struck, some similar models around the province, and generally speaking, people were pretty content with the structure, and perhaps would like perhaps more information or more availability of senior staff in particular from operations. There was, yeah, so there we are. Generally speaking, partners were content. Sorry, I'm going to skip that because that's a bit repetitive. Students indicated an interest in inviting the public. Our terms of reference stipulate that advisory is open to the public, and we did welcome 2 student guests last week. We noted that there are some guardrails around advisory conversations when consideration of privacy, personnel, union negotiations, and so on, and nor is it a shortcut for individuals to get decisions from the board. So we stress that advisory is for our partner groups, and that's what it's set up to do. The board shared the revised policy 14 regarding school closure and or grade reconfiguration that we have just passed. And we invited partner groups to comment after the meeting if there was any thoughts came to mind a little later, which they didn't. So all in all, a rather productive meeting that covered a lot of ground, and we learned a little bit about what people value about the advisory process.
Any questions, comments?
I know that the meeting is over, but I just have a suggestion that came forward after chatting with our new students that were there. And one of them said it would be great if they could have like an orientation. So if we could have the students maybe come together and sit down and have a talk versus coming into a meeting. And so I don't know if you do or not, but it was.
No, I hadn't heard that. And you know, I think our senior staff really do that. They cover it in the DSAC meetings, but I also think because they sort of revolve through.
Yeah.
So I think that's great, and that's a conversation I think that's easy to look after. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That is a conversation that's happening at DSAC. It was supposed to happen at the last meeting, but the senior management team was away, and so Mr. Sandquist and I were somewhat in charge, somewhat not. I think the kids were in charge for that meeting. So it is being addressed at DSAC.
I just thought I would bring it forward as
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, that being no other business, motion to adjourn.
I think we should stay for another hour just for the acronym.
I'm good with that.
There's the door.